do in the other rooms. Of course, in nursery, we wait till kids are like 6 months old before we bring them in. And we have Coral and Jimmy who work together. We have Marky and Katrina who work together. And then I'm in there with Stephanie, Jennifer Williams, and Janet. So we alternate weeks. And we just take care of babies and play and have fun. That's what we do. But then we get to the little K, our rambunctious bubble babies. Right, Miss Reba?
That's right. We love them.
We do. We love them
Yes.
immensely. And too bad these kids have grown out of our bubble babies. We have added something new to the room that you guys do not know about. Katrina used it last week. Katrina, can you give me a quick yes, no, maybe on our curtain?
Yes, it was awesome. It worked really well. We do have a couple of students that if they can see the toys, that is all that matters. And so I explained when it was time to do lesson, I was like, closed it. I said, all right, we cannot touch anything on the other side of the curtain or look over there until we're all done. And one of our most distracted kids, actually, the curtain got bumped, opened just enough, and he went and closed it. He's like, oh, no, we can't be over there yet. He went and closed it. So I was like, all right, it's working.
So,
And then I was like, hey, y'all can go play, and man, that curtain came right open. As soon as I said, you're free, they were gone. But it worked for the purpose that it needed to be there.
that's so awesome to hear. I'm so excited that it did. It was actually the curtain that was made for the stage. So it's quite large, quite heavy. But in fact, Katrina, she made it for us. George found them for us, and we put up the curtain. Freddie put it up last week, and Sunday was a trial. Because we do have some kids that are very distracted very easily. And they will hopefully outgrow this as they get older. But it was more of a, how can we, without really separating them from all of this, get the distractions away so that we can focus in that one little area on our lessons. And what I do is I print off all your lessons early, as you all know, and I have all of them with me tonight for the month of October so that you'll be all set and ready to go. Okay. Some of you know my story, and some of you do not. On the 14th of October, I will be having surgery, and I was told today I will be out for 3 weeks. No matter how I argued and begged and pleaded, it was a, no, you're going to rest for 3 weeks.
And you gotta take care of yourself.
And I'm like, okay, I'll have my office set up in my bedroom. And they were like, what part of rest do you not understand? I said, what part of my love, my job do you not understand? And so we shall see what God has planned, not what Denise has planned, not what doctors have planned. What is God? And so far, He has done miraculous things in the most unbelievable ways in my whole experience over the last several months. And today played out as one of those God things. I looked up my surgeon online, and his name is Dennis Edward Choate. Well, that just blew my mind completely, because my maiden name is Denise Edwards. So when we went in today and I told him that that's what I found, he started laughing, and I'm like, okay. He said, no, you don't understand. My mom wanted a girl, and she was going to be named Denise. And he says, so that's how I got Dennis. And I'm like, okay, God, I got you. We're good. So I'm peaceful. I appreciate all the prayers that have been going up, because I know they've been all over the room. God's got me. And in the meanwhile, I will do the very best I can to do what He has called me to do, which is to prepare my teachers. And that was why I needed to ask them, is there anything that you have seen or felt in the classroom that we need to address? Or are you're good? I know you two are set up for this weekend, don't worry, I'm
I'm
gonna
so
be right there
nervous.
with you. Do not be nervous.
That packet was intimidating.
Yes, it is a little intimidating, but once you see it in action, it'll make a whole lot more sense. And Susan, you and I talked about the curtain, and so that's why we went ahead with it. Is there anything that you can add that you like, dislike, or about our program?
I mean, I think that's gonna be the main fix it.
The main fix it, okay.
Yeah.
Ms. Marguerite, you work with Susan. Any questions, issues?
We haven't been able to work with the curtain. But
I don't have no problem with the curtain without the curtain.
Right.
They just,
Yes, ma'am, I know. Ms. Marguerite's a school teacher like me, so there you go.
just talk.
Ms. Reba,
Well, Miss Denise, you have done an excellent job with our lesson plan. I love this way of teaching. It's, and I think the kids enjoy it. They understand it more and they get a lot out of it. And I love working with Miss Nisi, so
yeah.
I
you
think,
guys
and the
make a
curtain's
good
gonna be really good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's gonna help, it really is. Okay, any questions? All right, let me grab all my paperwork. I know Sydney and Josh went in the other day and did their lesson in there. How did it go? Did it go good? Okay, you'll enjoy the curtain as well. I do go in every other week when James is there. He's doing really wonderful.
He sure is, James
He
is.
is, he's just,
Yes.
he's getting to be amazing, and I'm just real thrilled with that. He is really funny though when he decides that he needs to help get somebody to calm down,
I know.
especially his little sister. He'll go, Elizabeth. And she just looks at him and he goes. So that's really funny to me. Okay, this is gonna be your next one.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. And they're all sorted there as usual.
You got one?
I got your, well, I got your other one too. This
Do you
one.
want something else? That's what I asked you.
Oh, I'm gonna go have my ears checked out and get through all this other stuff.
Don't tell me something to with you.
She's trying to disturb you.
Let's see, I think that's right. They're doing 3-1, 3-2, 3. No, that's the wrong one, you're 3-4. You're 3-3. In these packets that I'm giving out to these ladies and gentlemen, it gives them step by step of what they're doing. I don't know that Jesse will be back, Janae may not. So I have you ready for October.
The other two is with me. I'll be right back.
I have you ready for October. I also have a little handout here that talks about preschoolers and gives a little more information on what they experience and the age that they are, and it breaks it down into boys and girls. Well, that's quite interesting. I like it.
Yes, and that's when other service apps are going on.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just had it silent.
That's left, right. I know. You're always
I think that's it. And also, did you print yours or did you keep it?
I printed the large group.
Okay. This is called a 2-minute trainer, and I am still trying to figure out how to share this with everybody online. I will get there. As Brooklyn can attest to, it's difficult to locate it sometimes.
Yes.
But which gives me answers that if you come up with something you're like, how do I go about dealing with this situation. This cute little 2-minute trainer comes up with a lot of stuff that helps us understand. And part of it is be relational, be consistent, be involved, be quiet. Because sometimes these kids need to talk, and we need to listen. And that covers every age group, no matter what age you're talking to. That covers them all. Sometimes they just need somebody other than mom and daddy. And if we build that rapport with these kids, they will stay with it. They will stay with God. I have a perfect example back there in that room. That was how she was taught. And that is what she is doing now. And I am so proud of her. Any more questions, comments? Anything? Nothing? Okay. I will try to have November ready before I leave my 3 weeks.
Okay.
Yes. So, volunteer is getting that set up for me. I have handouts for current Kid Nation volunteers that are just, the scope of our rest of our journey through the Bible. I'm also recruiting at this meeting, Shane. So if you're interested in teaching the nation, stop. Huh? Oh, right there, yeah.
Got it.
So it's not in presenter. Right there. Oh, it's because you have your screen on duplicating. Your display settings are on duplicate, that's why. Or display settings.
That's good. Had mostly good readings. So we just came in with that. So we're just gonna, I'm just gonna go into it. But she thinks it's kind of efficient. So,
That should work.
oh yeah. Right. So other than that, I'm just doing something else. But otherwise, I'm just trying to.
Okay, I'll just look
Worry
at the
about
notes
it.
on my phone.
Yeah, it's a waiting game. It'll take time.
I'm sorry, I'm right here. Wait.
That's what he has.
I had it.
Um, 14.
Got Denise Love. Conquer video.
I know. Yeah, so they say I'll be out, and that next Sunday. The 20th. Y'all guess. Said they like 2.5, 3 hours. Oh, he said, now, he says, I can't promise. He said, but the way things are looking. It might not be different, like, kids get, hello.
It has to be, it has to be, it has to be the same.
This is HD.
Yeah, that's.
Okay, John, can you go get your laptop?
I'm more concerned about this someone coming.
Please.
Hey, back there, you know. Because
Can't see the
they're on the east side, all the windows and they have.
Yeah, that'll work. I can't, it needs to be in like extend mode, so I can be in presenter view, so I can see my notes. Because otherwise, like, everything is in.
Okay, I got that.
Mine's a Windows.
No, it doesn't matter. It's not a Mac, it's a
Well, they were
Canva.
talking about it was moving pretty fast, but has it slowed down?
Don't start there. No, that ain't good. Go to sleep.
Ain't got a brother this morning, other than you get up.
I woke up at 2:45 and Coco came back to speak to someone sick. I hate that.
I know it.
I hate that. And then I have to be, like I had to be at my class, my line dance class, like at 9:40.
Am I good then?
Yeah, you're good.
So I had to push myself to get on and get my cup of coffee.
Yeah. The bid. But it's still in the
Right for
call, right?
now.
It's on there.
3 years.
They changed the variety.
You learn different things.
Extend.
And you dance at,
No, it's on duplicate, so you have to change your
You
display
stay
settings.
clean, baby.
yeah, I'm in the water
Uh-huh.
2 days a week doing my H2O. And on Tuesdays and Thursdays and Mondays, I'm in my exercising class with Mike and I'm busy. I stay busy. You have to stay busy. You gotta keep our body moving.
Open your.
But they have to use Tuesday to make it work, even if the power went out or something, they have to use Tuesday.
And I'm still spreading the gospel.
Gratefully, Mark.
Amen.
Cause everybody loves me.
I wonder why.
But
And you know why. They
Does that mean
love
no money in
me.
their pocket? Tuesday they'll pay one day.
It's not like we're planning, oh, this day.
Why? That's what she said she would do. This is a new. She said, What? Oh, Lord, have mercy, child.
We end up calling you because y'all that's what you're talking about.
They used to say Ron or Ron.
Because I didn't find it. The way I was supposed to.
I'm gonna say Ron.
You have a generator?
They don't know you by Ron.
We have a generator. Get to my house, we'll have a generator. Yeah. Stephen got me off.
I'm bringing my boyfriend. I'm bringing my boyfriend, honey. Ronald.
Well, let's crank it. We got to turn on the breakers.
How about that?
No, mine don't crank, it's just plug in, so the electric one it stays charged.
Like, so when the meter goes down,
And I can plug in or do whatever I need to with the phone or whatever. And it always keeps them charged, but I think Marky's taking it for her because she's more likely to do it. Not for that, just keep her phones charged.
Are y'all bringing everybody?
If you plug in your router, is it gonna make internet?
Okay,
Okay.
got it.
All right.
Yeah, sorry.
See, all my,
Okay, thank you for your patience, everyone. It's just my
are you up,
notes.
you ready to go now?
Yeah, my notes are like in the presenter view, so if we just duplicate screens, I can't see my notes, and I need notes. But I did exactly what I'll tell you all not to do. I didn't prepare or test out the equipment ahead of time, so there we go. So Kid Nation overview, it's grades 1st through 5th grade. We have Sunday mornings, Wednesday evenings. It's roughly about an hour for each class. Ideally for Sunday mornings, we would have a lead teacher, an assistant teacher, and a special needs buddy for Ari. And then Wednesdays, we have a smaller group, so we'd probably be fine with just a lead teacher and then a special needs buddy for Ari. But we need at least 2 adults minimum on Sundays and Wednesdays. So Kid Nation motto is Kid Nation is fun, not fun time. It's God's time. So I want the kids to realize like we can have fun in class, but it's not fun time to do whatever you want. Like it's God's time, so we need to be respectful. And learning about God can be fun. So I try to review the motto and the classroom rules each week with the kids, like before we start. And usually I'll ask the kids for information and ask them for examples of each. The classroom rules are posted in our room. They're really simple. Be respectful, be responsible, and be ready. So I'll ask the kids like, what are examples of that? One thing that I try to encourage the kids with being ready is that they use the bathroom before class so that we don't have to lose one teacher to watch them go to the bathroom and come back. Or that all the kids, want a field trip to the bathroom. So, it's a lot smaller than I thought it would be. So Sunday morning looks like we start off with free time, so we do 10 minutes of free time. So the kids have free time options, so they can recite their memory verse during that time. They can turn in their homework sheet from the week before. They can play board games. You can encourage them to play group games. They can read, they can color, they can draw. I had to give them options because just saying free time meant they just ran all over the room. So there's options for free time. They can also draw on the prayer wall with the chalk markers, the prayer praise wall, and then we have the whiteboards too. I really like this quote that Pastor George mentioned a couple of weeks ago, I think now, that Josh McDowell said, rules without relationship lead to rebellion. So free time is for the kids to connect, but it's also for the leaders to connect with the kids. So I encourage you to play games with them. Why? Oh, that's not gonna be good. So play games with them, encourage them, or initiate the group games. For some reason I can't scroll down and see the rest of my notes, so I'm just gonna try and guess what else I wrote here. Yes, so review. Before we jump into the lesson, I always review the memory verses that are on the wall, on the back of the door. And then we have now the timeline cards, because this whole year we're going through the entire Bible. So it's the big Bible story. So we'll start with like the first image and have the kids tell me like, what is this picture? Or who's in this picture? Or whose kids are these? Because, you know, we're going creation to Adam and Eve, to Cain and Abel, to Noah, and so on and so on. And so the pictures are posted visually on the wall so that we can remind the kids and review each week what we've already learned before we jump into the next character or story. So the lessons are kind of interesting because each unit is different. I mean, we'll always for Sundays follow the large group lesson that will be posted in Planning Center, but to show how they're different, like we started off the year with the unit called Get Real, where the kids literally made up reels to the story of creation while we were reading the lesson. The next one that we just finished was What's Next, and it was a Bible guessing game show that was integrated in the lesson itself. The next one is called Mad Props that we're starting this coming Sunday, and the kids get to guess like what prop is in a box, and now that prop becomes a part of the story. So every unit is going to be different, but like the overall components will be similar, if that makes sense. So you'll just follow the PowerPoint that will be saved on the computer. I'll send out a separate email with adjusted instructions on accessing that PowerPoint, but the PowerPoint's going to follow the guide that's in your large group lesson. So after the lesson, we'll go into a time of prayer. So I asked the kids for prayer requests, and there's a spot on the whiteboard for prayer requests. I found that when we write the prayer requests down, more kids are willing to actually pray for some of the requests because they can see the requests. They don't have to remember all of them. And so I've had some kids actually offer to pray, and then they end up praying for the whole list. And we're like, oh, I guess we're done. So that's been great. And then after a time of prayer, if sometimes we don't always have this time, but the curriculum has like this respond and reflect time, and there's different things that they offer as suggestions to do, like you can read the Bible, you can journal, you can do like an art station, and so the two that I've chosen to just focus on for now for our class to introduce this to them is the journaling and the art. So the kids all have their own journal. I always remind them like no one's reading your journal, it's private, it's just between you and God. And so every week has a journal prompt, and every week also has like an art prompt so the kids can do like a craft at the end. The end of class, if you have extra time, feel free to play a group game. Hand out the take-home guides. That's like the most important thing, that they all get their take-home guides before they leave the classroom. And then everyone gets a prize if they earned it, and then if they didn't get their prize for their homework sheet from the last week, then you'll give them their prize. So I have PowerPoint ingredients, which the order of the PowerPoints are subject to change based on how the lesson is laid out. But you're always going to have a 5-minute countdown timer that will be themed to the unit, so that's kind of fun. It has crazy music, so if you're playing a group game, feel free to mute that slide so that you can hear the kids or play the game. Since we're giving them 10-minute free time, you could either play it twice, which is what I do, or you could start the time, manually, and then when there's 5 minutes left, put on the timer and then tell them at the end of the timer we're starting class. It's also going to have single break slides of like the unit series images, and then also the big Bible story so that you can reference back to that. It'll obviously have the lesson slides and some reflection questions from the lesson. It'll have a memory verse slide, and then it also has a reflect and respond slide with music. So this is kind of what I've set up the whiteboard to look like. I'm not like married to this, but this has been working well. So in the upper corner, I'll have the unit name and the lesson name so the kids can see it. On the other side, we have the memory verses. So I'll list all the memory verses for that unit. There's typically 4 to 5 memory verses a unit. So kids are learning a memory verse a week, in theory. So a spot there for prayer requests. And then the free time options, I have the list of all the things that we talked about so that we can kind of quickly go through them at the beginning of class, remind them what their options are, then they can have their free time. So I have a section for a no prize list. We've tried different things with classroom behavior management, and we tried doing it as like a whole class, so the class could like earn something special, but it just wasn't working, and it wasn't fair, sorry, to continue punish the kids that were actually behaving well just because one or two were not. So they get their name written on the board, and if they get 3 strikes, then they don't get a prize for the day. So it doesn't carry on to like the next week, it's just for that week, and either the lead teacher or the assistant can write or put checks. It's really a last resort. Like, I'm not trying to not give kids prizes every week, but it's just something to kind of reinforce good behavior. And Wednesday evenings, we don't want to introduce new concepts on Wednesdays because we don't always, so on Wednesdays we have kids that were here on Sunday, but on everyone that comes on Sunday is not necessarily going to come on a Wednesday. So Wednesday serves more as a review day. So we will play memory verse games. We'll focus more on seeing what they remember from Sunday, kind of check in with the kids a little bit. So that's kind of how we start, with like a check-in. How's the week going? What did you learn on Sunday? And then we'll play the memory verse games. They really like this memory verse bridge game. You sing the song London Bridge, well, to the tune of London Bridge. Can you say the memory verse? The bridge collapses on the kid, and then that kid has to say the verse, and they really like it. So, and then each week in the small group guide, which is for Wednesday nights, there's other suggestions for games as well. Try to have a time of prayer on Wednesday evenings too, and just, there's nowhere to write the prayer requests on Wednesdays. I guess you could write them on the little whiteboards that are in there. And then on Wednesday evenings, we finish with the Journey Today show, which is about a 10 to 15 minute video, which is a recap of what they learned on Sunday. And the other families also have access to this. I've sent it out in an email so that if their kids can't come on Wednesday, they can still watch the video and kind of follow along with the class. I'm a really big critic when it comes to videos and production and stuff like that, and I'd have to say that these videos are actually really well done. I find them pretty clever and kind of thought-provoking. So we end the class with the Journey Today show. So prep work, just like tonight, fail to plan, plan to fail. So it's so true. So please review the lesson plan for the day that you're teaching. And like I said, large group plan is for Sundays, small group plan is for Wednesdays, but it's labeled in Planning Center with the date that you're serving. But anyone that's scheduled can see all of the resources. So you can see, if you're teaching on Wednesday, you can see what they learned on Sunday. If you're teaching on Sunday, you can see what they're going to be learning on Wednesday. You have access to the PowerPoint ahead of time, so if you want to run through the PowerPoint and be comfortable with it, you can do that. There's also a leader devotional in there for you, and skill builders, which is the second one. So every week has a specific leader devotional for what we are learning about, and then different skill builders that just help you with like speaking in front of the kids, or like small group time, or different things like that. And then the third thing is most important, to pray for the kids ahead of time and just for Holy Spirit to lead you. But I would say the more prepared you are, the easier it is to go off of your plan. If you don't have a plan and you're just winging it, it's going to be a little more challenging. So I just put some tips from what I've learned in this role. I personally, I don't have a loud voice, so I don't talk over kids. So if they all start getting chatty and they start talking, I'll just sometimes like stand there and I'll say like, I'll wait, like I'll wait for you guys. Are you done? And the kids usually catch on pretty quick, right? They're like, oh, we're not supposed to be talking right now. Yeah, okay, let's be quiet. And then they wait, and then class moves on. Review, review, review. It's so important. Repetition is key. So I'll throw in review questions anywhere, even in the middle of the lesson. If we say, if Moses' name came up in the lesson, oh, well, who is Moses? Or who was Joseph? Or wait, who's Abraham's kids? Or who's Isaac's kids? And just ask them different like review questions within the lesson. I'd say don't assume anything and always over-explain. So case in point, on Sunday we gave the kids whiteboards and whiteboard markers to write their answer on the whiteboard for the game show. And I think half of the kids left with their clothes covered in whiteboard marker. Because, yeah. Yeah. So like when you give kids whiteboard markers, like, okay, really quick, like what are the rules for the whiteboard markers? And they'll tell you, like they know. Don't write on yourself, don't write on your friend, don't write on the class, right? Put the cap back on the marker when you're not using it. That's what we needed to add on Sunday, because they were just sitting there fidgeting with it and they tie-dyed their clothes.
That's a rule for me too.
Yes, it is. And I'd say transitions are the toughest part. So I really like this curriculum because it stays in like a one track as much as possible, even though it involves the kids. It stays kind of in the same, whereas before it was more like compartmentalized, and so transitions were even tougher. So I think transitions are a lot easier in this one, but the kids still seem to, I don't know, transitions are just the hardest. So I'm thinking of different things. I'm thinking of like maybe doing like a segue thing like between each section, and maybe they can get on a pretend segue and like drive to the next section and then sit down and like now we're ready to move on to the next thing, but I'm open to ideas. But that's when your planning really helps, because the transitions will be easier and there won't be as much downtime that will lead to distraction if you have your plan and you know what the lesson should be and how you're going to transition and what's going to come next. So some resources I've sent out before, I can resend again. There's some links to sessions from a Children's Pastors Conference that have all kinds of just different topics from the sessions they're all audio mostly, and it's all free for us to listen to since I attended the conference a couple years ago. Go Curriculum also has really cool 2-minute trainer videos on a bunch of different topics. So I'll be sending those out. Those are all hosted on Vimeo. And then listen to, like, find Kidmin podcasts and, like, share when you find a good one. One that I recently found is called Curiously Caitlin. And it's a woman who hosts, like, a different theologian each week, and they ask the theologian a question that a kid has asked. So, like, one I just listened to was, like, a kid asked, why didn't God give us superpowers? And then you listen to like the theologian explain, like what, like they kind of argued that we do have superpowers in a sense, I won't spoil it. But it was really interesting, and they didn't just write off the question like, oh, that's a silly question. You know, they really dove into it theologically. And our kids are curious, and they're gonna ask really good questions. Just this last week, one of them asked like, well, how can Adam and Eve have kids if when they, you know, ate the forbidden fruit that they were supposed to die? How did they have kids after that? And so that was like a great question. And so we got to talk about that for a little bit. So that's a fun podcast. So I just want to say thank you. And I'm here. I'm open to like suggestions and thoughts, ideas, complaints, feedback, concerns. Anything you want to talk about, I'm here. And I'm just so grateful for everyone that does volunteer and maybe those who will be volunteering in the future. And also I want to say, when I volunteered in kid ministry, like 10 years ago now, when I was first starting out, my leaders like always knew when I would come to church and like I wasn't in the right mindset, you know, to like serve that day. And they'd be like, no, like you need to go upstairs and you need to get some worship, or you need to go, you know, sit with God, right? And so if you ever are scheduled to serve and it's a day that I'm there and something happened that morning, or you're just not in the right mindset to serve, or you just need some worship time, or maybe you were scheduled to serve the following week, like please tell me. Like, we'll work something out. I want everyone to be healthy and to have that good balance of sitting and serving. So, are there any questions? I'm sorry, I probably forgot half of what I was going to say because I can't see my notes for some reason, even though they're there. I can't scroll. So.
You did a good job, baby.
Thank you. Thank you. So do I have any takers, any new volunteers for Kid Nation?
What days are open?
We don't have a set schedule right now because my volunteers' availability is kind of varied at the moment. So it's not as structured as Little K, where it's like every first Sunday is covered or every second Sunday is covered. It's a little more varied. I would hope for that to change next year, but if people's schedules, you know, don't allow, then it kind of is what it is. Yeah, you have a question?
I know you were asking me I was gonna be available, definitely Wednesdays.
Oh, for
and
Wednesdays?
Sundays.
Okay. Great, yeah. I just, I thank you guys for your service, especially when I'm out of town. Like, I know that it's covered, the lessons are, you know, they're always gonna be in Planning Center at least a week ahead of time, probably even more. I try to do them like a whole month at a time, or like a unit at a time. Yeah. Thank you. Mhm. I only printed a few of these because it's pretty long, but these are for like lead teachers for Kid Nation. So to volunteer for Kid Nation, like you don't have to be the lead teacher, you don't have to be the one doing all the talking, like you can just be the one to help the individual kids. You can help with classroom management, you can be Ari's buddy. You don't have to be the one doing the talking.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Well, I would like to say thank you to Brooklyn and Denise for, overseeing the nursery and children's department. They've done a great job of making sure that everything gets covered for us.
Do you have extra pens somewhere? Okay, wow. Might have a pen or two.
You came prepared, didn't you, Susan?
My color pen didn't make it back.
Susan, you came prepared, didn't you, guys?
So just a few general things that I'm going to go over with you guys that will apply to all ages and sort of where we want to be as a church. And then I'll talk a little more specifically about the middle school and high school stuff. And so I just want to talk a little bit about discipline in class because that is one of the greater challenges for the younger kids, both on Sunday mornings and on Wednesdays in class. And it is important for us to make sure that we maintain control of the class. And because as Brooklyn was saying a few moments ago that sometimes when one or two kids get out of control, it disrupts the entire class, and then it sidetracks everybody. And of course, none of us want to be the bad guy. None of us want to be the ones that enact the discipline. But if we don't do that, then it just becomes chaotic. And so we have to have some kind of discipline in the class, and discipline is important to God. In fact, in Hebrews chapter 12, verse 10 and 11 says, God disciplines us for good in order that we may share in His holiness. No discipline seems pleasant at the time, but painful. Later on, however, it produces a harvest of righteousness and peace for those who have been trained by it. And one of the challenges for any of us is we only have a certain amount of time on a Sunday morning. We only have a certain amount of time on a Wednesday night. And we don't want to spend all of our time disciplining. But, some of the challenge is that they're coming into class, and a lot of times it is a new structure for some of them. They may not, there may be kids coming to church who've never been to church before. And so, trying to help them learn how to learn and things like that. So we have to have classroom rules. They have to be classroom standards of conduct. And I think those things have already been outlined for you, or you should already know what those kind of things are. But I will be clear on this, and it is important for us to understand that, when it comes to forms of discipline, there's no physical contact in discipline. So we do timeout, you can get the parents, these kind of things, but there's not going to be any kind of physical contact at all. And one of the things too that we need to be aware of is that in some of the classes, even kids, right, are hitting each other or touching each other, and some kids don't like that, okay? And so we just need to be aware that we are helping everyone maintain their personal space, making sure that everyone is being safe, and helping everyone feel comfortable and loved in the classroom, right? And so we want to make sure that we're aware of all these different things. This is why we have 2 adults in each class, okay? And so we need to make sure that we're keeping our eyes open and not allowing something to get out of control. A lot of the kids, and we need to curtail this, all right? There's a lot of kids before the service starts, they like to run around, they like to play. And all that does is it builds it up, and then they get into the classroom and they want to continue that. And so we need to try to help diffuse that so that by the time they get into class, right, they're ready to listen. But if they're amped up before the service and they're running around, then it's going to be very hard to settle them down. So helping with that, helping parents with that, is something that you can do as a teacher. And so what can we do if there's issues in the classroom? I want to give you a few things to think about, okay? First one is redirect, all right? And so what that means is that, most of the time, and I think Brooklyn even mentioned this a few moments ago, right? Most of the time, they know the rules. They know what's right and wrong. You guys are good parents too. You've taught them right and wrong, okay? And so sometimes we just need to take a moment and redirect them and say, we're not going to do that. Think before you act. What's the rule in the classroom? Okay, so we may need to redirect them, and here's how you can do it. All right, visually, right? Especially if you're dealing with younger kids, you want to get down on their level, face to face, eye to eye, right? It's like I'm on your level. Okay, so visually connect with them, and the point of that is that we're not trying to talk down, right? We want to talk to. Okay, this is about relationship again. Remember I talked about that last week, how important relationships are. So we're not trying to lord something over a kid, right? We want to come down on their level. We want to help them see, all right, and point out, okay, what is the rule? What's going on here, okay? So we want to verbally ask them and make sure that they understand where the infraction is, okay? It's like, now, what just happened here? What did you just do? Why? What's going on? Okay? So verbally interact, ask questions, reinforce, okay? And then also, we want to instill value, okay? So when we're having this discipline, it's not that we're just trying to enforce a rule, okay? We are trying to build a relationship. And so we're going to come back, why are we addressing this? Because we have values in the classroom, okay? We value other people, so we don't hit, okay? We value, right, kindness, so we're not going to say that. Right? So we want to bring them back to the core values of things that we talked about last week. Okay? What are we doing now? Well, we're reading the Bible. Don't we value God's word? So we need to listen. Okay, so bring them back to the values. Bring them back to, I value you, and I don't want you to get in trouble. So I'm giving you this warning. Okay, and then you explain what the rules are again. You get 2 more strikes, well, you don't get a prize, or whatever the rule is. Okay, but you got to bring them back to that value. Does that make sense? Okay. All right. So if the redirect doesn't work, then you may have to go to remove. Okay. Now removing, it's three things I want to deal with removing. Remove the distraction. Okay, so if they're fidgeting with something, then you remove that out of the classroom. Okay, I know we just did that with that curtain, right, is you remove the distraction. Get it out of their hand, take it away, move to a different location. If it's a person that's a distractor, then you may need to separate them, right? There's always that those two, when they get together, right? I remember Buddy and Aaron, you know, it's like they were great when they were apart, but man, when Buddy and Aaron got together, oh my goodness, it was like TNT. And so, you know, sometimes you may have to separate two to keep the distractors apart so that everyone can focus. All right? So you take away the things that are contributing to the distraction. And that may be relocating them, right? And then finally, you may have to discipline by removing them, okay? And so that may mean that you have to, you know, send them out with the other assistant or get the parent, okay? Of course, that's a last resort. We don't want to go that far. And hopefully, by doing some of these things, it will help us from having to go that far. But it may come a time where, especially if the classrooms are large, right, and you've got a child that seems to have a hard time really connecting or contributing, where it's like it may require meeting with the parents, you know, outside of Sunday morning to talk about some creative ways to handle that situation. All right? Any thoughts or comments about any of that? Okay, so which brings me to the next part, right? Refer. If there's a problem in the classroom, all right, we need to deal with these things quickly. Again, you only have a certain amount of time in the classroom anyway, so you don't want things to just go on and on and on. You need to deal with it quickly, and so what that may require is, especially if you see that this has been a pattern or a habit, right, with a certain child, is that you may need to deal with the supervisor, okay? So whoever your immediate supervisor would be, so that would be Denise or Brooklyn or myself, okay? Is, you know, notify the supervisor so that you can set up a parent-teacher discourse so that we can find out what can we really do to help. Because our goal is for every child, right, to know Jesus, for every child to be loved and feel connected. That's what we want. And so if there's something that we can do better, we need to know that. But sometimes that may take a little dialogue, okay? And then reward. As Brooklyn was saying, you know, the motto is have fun, right? We want the kids to enjoy coming to church. We want them to enjoy worship. I think it's a sin for church to be boring. And I think that we should really work hard at trying to make learning fun. And so rewarding is important. And so we can reward in different ways with praise, okay? We can encourage, you know, good answer. We can encourage them to do certain things by positive reinforcement. But we can also do that with prizes, as has already been stated, that maybe there's going to be prizes that they can earn, or somehow they collect, you know, different things to kind of show their achievements. But I would say beware of promises. And the reason I put that there is because if you say something, you need to do it.
Yes.
So don't promise something, because as soon as you say something that sounds like a promise, I promise you, they're not going to forget it. And it is important for us to be people of our word. And so be careful of saying, you know, because here's what you will do, is you may say something at the beginning of class as a promise, and the end of class comes, and you didn't do what you promised to do, right? Then what you've done is you've become a liar. So you got to be careful to not promise things, right, within the class period. If you're going to promise something, make sure it's something you can follow through on, or something that you can do, right, in a reasonable amount of time. And so put some constraints on your promises. Just be careful with that. And then remember, Okay? So when we're dealing with discipline in the class, it's really important for us to remember a couple of things. We need to remember, first of all, right, that we're not perfect, okay? And we're dealing with small human beings who are not perfect. And so we've got to remember that. We also need to remember that God is allowing us the opportunity to influence these children and help them to grow. Okay? And so, obviously, we want to show grace. But sometimes it is important for us to make sure we're following those rules that we have stated. And not just in the classroom, but we're following them ourselves. Okay? That as the teacher, you need to be doing the things that you're asking them to do. So that may mean if you're asking them to memorize a Bible verse, you better memorize it. That if you're expecting them to do a lesson, right, something at home, well, you better do it too. So I don't want us to be hypocritical. So we've got to make sure that we're doing the things that we're asking them to do. When it comes to discipline in the class, I want to remind you that bad behavior isn't just because a kid is bad, all right, but maybe from a bad situation you're not aware of. So be careful with jumping to conclusions, okay, and understand that sometimes bad behavior may be just a cry for help or a cry for someone to listen, okay? And so be careful of just jumping to the gun whenever a kid doesn't seem to comply immediately with the rule, right? Try to find out, okay, why is this a problem? What's going on here, okay? And that may mean that you need to have a conversation outside of class, right, before or after class, to try to deal with something or get some more information. But you need to remember that sometimes the attitude or the action, right, there's an underlying reason that's there, okay? Brooklyn alluded to this by Josh McDowell, and I kind of tweaked it a little bit. That rules without relationship, rules minus relationship equals rebellion. And my tweak is that rules, in addition to relationship, can lead to resolutions. That if you have a relationship with a child and if there's some conflict, right, if you've got that resolution, that relationship, then you can enforce the rules a little bit better and find a resolution that works for everyone. Okay? But all this comes from relationships. That we've got to really focus on these relationships with the children, with the families, okay? And as we do that, we're going to find the things that are going to work, okay? And just because it works for one kid doesn't mean it's going to work for the other, okay? But that's where the relational aspect comes in. So we can have the best rules in the world, but if we don't have a relationship with these children and help them understand why it's a rule, okay? Sometimes, let's be honest, we don't all understand why there's certain rules in life either. And our maturity takes us to a place to obey even without understanding, but sometimes it would help us a lot if we just understood why we have to obey this. Okay? And so remember that when you're dealing with the children, when you're dealing with your kids, right, that maybe just a little explanation on why this is a rule might help them follow the rule a little bit better. Okay? Any comments or questions about any of that? Yes?
What's the purpose for the rule that you can't wear a hoodie in class?
What is the purpose for you? Why you can't? Are you talking about at church?
Especially when at public school, because
Oh.
it's super cold in there. But
It
you
is.
can't wear a jacket.
Yeah. Well,
Especially when
it's
rain.
because they don't want you to cover your head because they want to be able to see your face. Because they need to know who they're talking to. So they want to see your face.
I have a question. What if there's no hoodie? Just a jacket.
Yeah, so that means no hood over your face. Okay, so let me go over this here with you guys, a little acronym for you. You may have heard this. SOAP, Okay, so this is a really easy and simple thing that you can share with your kids, whether in a classroom or at home, either one. Yeah, they don't want to use it, right? But what you might want to do, right, is you could have some liquid soap maybe in the classroom or something, and whenever they're not following one of these rules, you can just get out the liquid soap, let them wash their hands, right, and say, we're going to clean this up, okay? So, and SOAP stands for this, right? We need to respect ourselves, okay? Respect ourselves. So that means don't act out. Don't show yourself, right? Don't get an attitude like that. Respect yourself, okay? Handle things with maturity, right? You think you're a little bit older now? Well, let's act like it, okay? So respect yourself, all right? We also want to encourage respect for others. Sometimes, right, we need to clean it up a little bit here. We're not going to talk that way to each other. We're not going to hit each other. We're going to have respect. We're going to respect people's space, respect their boundaries. They don't want to be touched. They don't want to be hugged. They don't want to be hit. So we're not going to do that. Okay? Respect authority. So this goes to, and as a teacher, right, sometimes we've found this to be true in the public schools, that when there's no respect for authority in the schools, right, the kids are just going crazy. And so one of the things that you as a church leader and volunteer, helping maintain the respect in the classroom, is also going to help them to be able to respect their parents at home. It's going to help them respect their teachers at school. It's going to help them respect other people in public positions, okay? So this is why we have discipline, because we're trying to help them understand that I'm not the only authority in your life. God is the ultimate authority in your life. But when you obey me and when you're obeying authority, you're also showing respect and honor to God, okay? And that includes honoring your parents, right? So these are things that we can help in sometimes in very blatant and explicit ways, but in a lot of times it's just going to be kind of subliminal, right? We're just reinforcing these things by you maintaining the control you need in the classroom, okay? And then finally, we want to help them respect property, okay? Or respect the place. So this comes back to, like, you know, even though our church, you know, we're not requiring everybody to come in, you know, dressed in suits and ties, and, you know, you don't have to be quiet and all that kind of stuff. But we do need to teach everyone to respect the property, to respect the place. That this is a house of worship. This is a place. And even though this, you know, the Epic Center is a place where we're going to be doing a lot of different things, we still need to respect the property. I mean, we're about to have a $25,000 screen across here. And there's not going to be kicking balls around in here. And that's the kind of thing that, you know, if we're not careful, a kid's going to come in here with a ball, and they're going to throw it, and it's going to hit the wall.
God bless the parent.
And so what I'm saying is that this is where it's incumbent on all of us to be saying, we got to respect the property. You can't just bring any ball in here anymore. You can't just do this because we've got a lot of money invested. We can't just treat this building any way we want to, especially when we're trying to use it as a rental. And so it's just things like that sometimes, you know, children or even teenagers are not aware of, right? Because, well, it's, you know, in some ways, they're going to feel like, well, this is my home, you know? And so you may live like one way at home, but this, you know, when people say make yourself at home, they don't really mean it, right?
You pay the mortgage, boy.
Yeah. And so when we say, you know, yeah, this is your home, it still means that you still need to respect the property, okay? So helping us out with that is something that will help all the way around. So, given all that stuff with discipline and everything, any comments, questions? Is that helpful? Anybody want to add, subtract anything to that?
of the things that I used in the classroom that was very effective was we had red, yellow, green stickers on just one piece of paper. And if a child's not following the rules, not doing what we asked, we just quietly walked over, took off the green. They knew immediately, looking down every time, that they were already headed toward not being able to get whatever they needed for the end of the day. Maybe something to think about if, you know, if you're working with a kid and you've got one that just doesn't want to settle down, everybody gets a sticker. Not just the one child, but everybody gets a sticker. Put it on a 3x5 card. Whatever is necessary for it to be seen. You know, you could put a chart on the wall. And if, you know, they get down to the red, no treat for the day. Because you only have them for an hour. You know, it's just another thing that worked really, really well. And it didn't require me saying anything, just walking over and going, so sorry, and just taking it away. And they knew immediately what they were doing because the rules were there.
If it's a visual aspect, with like being able to, I mean, it's just like hand-eye coordination for kids, if it's a visual aspect to just, you know, speaking as well,
Yeah,
because they can hear it a lot.
right.
You know, seeing it, it's like, oh.
Most of them should be familiar with it because they did that when Brayden was younger. Oh, I'm on green today. Oh, I was on red today. And another thing they used in preschool was there was a seat separately where if they weren't, you know, following
They knew
it,
time out, but not
they had to sit
out.
there all day. They're still doing that in the lunchroom. There's a table. You have to sit by yourself because you're disrupting the group. I think you have to have chairs. Well, it can be like just a little corner.
Yeah.
Away from the group itself.
And then there's not that exclusion either.
Right.
You know, I'm very big on inclusion, and I know I'm not one of you guys yet, but hi. But James is my nephew, and you guys all know my Peyton.
Yes.
That's enough said. No, Peyton has severe ADHD when he was younger, and we realized that exclusion made it worse.
Yeah.
It was horrible, because then he didn't understand, because he's not doing anything wrong. It's literally a chemical imbalance in your brain. But if it's just a cushion in the same area, they're still hearing about Jesus, because that's why we're there, but an aide can sit with them, or an older kid, you know, or something, we could sit with them and just calm them down a little bit. I don't like exclusion, so.
Right, they're still there.
Yeah,
They're still there. Not
just
part of
separate,
it.
so they're not
They
causing
can
disruption in
control
the big
themselves.
group, yes.
You gotta sit here, and then when you feel like you got it together again, move on back in. So there's several different types of things that can be tried.
Yeah.
And, you know, if you need help, just ask.
Yep.
The no prize is working pretty well. It's only the same kids that are consistently not getting the prize. Yeah. He took well last week, this past last week.
He can't handle sitting on the floor because he doesn't know what to do with his legs and feet and hands and arms and body. And he doesn't know where he is in space.
Yeah.
He needs something to sit his butt on, or he doesn't know where he is.
Could he have a
walks
special
around.
It's just Asher.
Well, then that's not fair to the rest
No,
of the
because
Well, if anybody else wants a stool, that's
There's
fine.
other kids that want.
That's fine. The stools are there, they can be used.
They had the stool before and you ought to see them. The stool don't work.
They lost their.
Y'all, it's not really gonna. We can literally sit here and split hairs about stools and cushions and tables and wheelchairs for hours.
What about?
You're gonna have to just kind of feel out each kid.
Yeah.
And, you know, it may just come down to, hey, this child needs this little different thing, all of you don't need it, cause y'all, we know you can do good on
I'm
a
just
cushion,
saying, I
so
know
I
my
need you to sit
kid.
on a cushion. Well, but that's
I
what I'm
know
saying,
my kid,
if
and
you know.
we want him to sit and listen to something, he's gotta have a place to sit,
But-
but he don't know where he's at.
But that's what I'm saying,
He's just
it's like, if we know there's a student,
who needs a physical thing to ground themselves on, that's one thing. If we know all the other students do fine on a cushion on the floor and they can sit and do it, then awesome, just explain, hey, this one needs something more grounded. Most kids can understand that, and it just has to be, y'all can do good on a cushion. I know you can do it good on a cushion. Sit, please. Asher, please. You can have the stool because I know you need something a little more solid. I mean, you just have to be able to set that boundary, and it has to be consistent. Like I was gonna say before that whole rant off my soapbox. But honestly,
Full trial and error. It was just not, that's the way it is with children.
Yeah, oh gosh.
Never
And
work with
they're not
animals
gonna stay
or
with
kids,
kids.
because you never know what they're gonna do. But what I was gonna say, what I got from it is what we really need to do is everyone needs to be consistent. Everyone who's volunteering, everyone who's working with the kids in each specific area need to all be on the same page and consistent with, these are the rules, these are the consequences, and everyone has to follow through. You can't have one person going, well, I'm gonna let this slide. No, everyone has to be consistent or it's useless. If you're not consistent, it's useless.
So let me talk about middle school a little bit, high school, because we'll be starting this on October the 6th at the church. So during the sermon, middle school and high school will have the option to go out and have a lesson that will be more tailored toward them. So it'll be video driven through Right Now Media. There's several people that'll be helping, rotating teachers from week to week back there. All that curriculum has already been put into Planning Center. And so the videos are about 15, 20 minutes long. Then there's time for discussion afterwards. Hopefully, because we haven't done this in that building, hopefully the noise won't be bothersome for the other classroom, Kid Nation on the other side. That's the only thing that we don't know yet because we haven't done it. But that's something we might have to be sensitive to with having kids or another group back there. And then on Wednesday nights over here, the plan is to have an outreach for middle school and high school that any kids can come from anywhere. And our goal is to hopefully get a bunch of kids from Fayette County High, Fayette Middle School, back over this way, because when we were here before, we had quite a large outreach to the high school in particular. And so the goal is to have this opened up on Wednesday nights and to do a special kind of youth service over here. If there's families that have younger kids like we already do, or families or other adults who want to continue to meet on Wednesday nights, then that would happen over at the other building. So it will require a little bit of coordination and planning for us to do that effectively, but that's the way that things are looking like it's going to happen. So starting in October, we're going to do some trial runs with Wednesday nights, and so everybody can still come on Wednesday nights to sort of see how it's going to go, kind of get an understanding of what it's going to be like, and then after we do a few of those, we can discuss whether or not the adults and those who have younger kids want to have a different meeting over at the other building. Because we'll need to, like I say, coordinate food. We'll have to coordinate, just people that have kids in both age brackets have to figure out how that's going to work.
We're just gonna have to pick one or the other.
Yeah, right.
Because we can't be a two-person one.
Yeah.
And for us to drive all the way here and then back to that church, back to the church building, and then back here to pick kids up, and then back home at the church, 20 miles.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's like,
Yeah.
not.
Yeah, and I understand.
Pick one place or the other.
Right. And on top of that, there's going to be other nights in the week once we get the building finished that are going to be specific to ages. So there will be like Thursday night You know, it might be like a elementary night that we invite families to come out and do things here. That's what we're looking to try to use this building for. So even if, you know, in your case, if you guys are over there and you're not here, then there'll be another time during the week where this will be available for, you know, anybody to come and hang out. So, so we're looking to do some different kinds of outreaches and things through the building here to minister to our families at the church, as well as to reach out to people that aren't part of the church, and really try to have an impact in the community. And so let me wrap up with this, because I think it is important for us to talk about this briefly in light of what happened in Winder a couple of weeks ago. We've done some training in the past about, you know, hide, run, fight kind of training. And I know that we've got several people here who have not been through that before, but, you know, in security, we do have a security team at the church. We have people that are stationed at the doors. We also have cameras that are set up, and when the service starts, the doors are locked, okay? So it is one of those things that it's a safety protocol for us to just try to make sure that we are aware of who is coming in and out of the building. During the service, there is a closed circuit TV that's in the sound booth, and there's also one that's in the counting room. And so monitors are, the church is being monitored all the time, all right? In the event that there was if there was something that were to happen, obviously the children are all in the back, okay? And being that we're going to be having another middle school classroom back there, people that work on the security team are also going to be helping teach back there. So there will be eyes directly back there, which we don't currently necessarily have all the time. Somebody kind of floats back and forth, but once we start with the middle school, high school, there's probably going to be a lot more of a presence of security back there, just in general. In the main auditorium, I don't know if you guys, you know, have ever noticed these things, and if you haven't, that's fine, that's good. But we have ways to manually lock the doors on the inside of the church, okay? In the event that there's an incident or something like that that's happening. On the doors that lead to the foyer, there are locks at the bottom of those doors that go into the ground, okay? And so they were put there in case of an emergency, okay? Just want you guys to be aware of that. So, again, God forbid that anything would ever happen, but we just want you to know we've taken a lot of steps to make sure that our facility is as safe as possible. But you as teachers need to be aware of these things in the event that there is, you know, some kind of incident going on. Your classrooms have doors that lock, and you need to be aware of, you know, your space. You need to be aware of where the exits are, how to get out of your room. You need to be aware of what you can move in your room, okay, if you need to bar a door up or something like that, okay? And I hate that we have to talk about this kind of stuff, but it is important for us and for you to be aware, okay? So any questions or comments?
I'll have one. So
Yeah.
the kids won't be in, like, the older kids or any of the kids won't be in there for homecoming service? So
Yeah.
it's
What's going to happen is, yeah, they'll be in there until we dismiss after meet and greet. They'll go back, and then at the end, they'll come back in because we got a video and everything we're going to show.
Okay.
So they just won't be in there for the message.
I'd like Brayton personally to stay in there for homecoming and finish the series out. I think it's a great series, and it has a lot of life lessons. So I think Sunday for him, instead of going back there, I'd like him to be in the.
Yeah, and it's optional, you know. Kids can go back or stay in either way. But yeah, on homecoming, they will dismiss during the kids' time, and then everybody's going to come back in for us to show the video and all that kind of stuff at the end.
One more thing, George, it would be beneficial for whoever is teaching that particular Sunday, if before the kids are released, they leave and go and are waiting in the room for the kids.
instead of the kids getting in the room.
Oh, yeah, right. Okay. All right, again, thank you all for your willingness to serve and help us.
Is there a certain time that people be over at this building if the people don't come to church, but what time do they be over here?
For when?
The homecoming.
For-
Like some
After
people
service.
can't come to the church, but they
Right, after service, we're planning on, of course, that service may go a little bit long, but we're hoping to have everybody getting here at like 12:30.
Do we need to have people like over here a little bit earlier to help them?
I think the caterer is gonna be here already, right? What time is she coming?
I'm not sure.
Okay,
I told about 12:15.
okay. So,
To help with that?
yeah, I think, yeah, we'll get somebody over here, cause the caterer's gonna have to get in here, yeah,
Okay, I can help too.
okay,
Somebody's gonna have to pick up the trains.
yeah.
Oh, really?
I ain't paying nobody else to come over here.
Well, the price is
All right,
fully delivered.
so let's pray. We'll get you guys out of here. Thank you, God, for tonight and for everything that we've learned. Help us, God, to remember these things, to apply them well, Lord, because we love these kids and we know that you do too. And so, Father, help us to do our very best to help them learn about you better. God, we pray that you continue to provide and protect our church, God, and we thank you for all these years of ministry and for all the people's lives that have been affected through New Vision, God. We give you thanks. And we pray that, God, you continue to add to the church. Lord, continue to build this ministry, use both locations, Lord, to bring people into your kingdom. And we ask this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.